This time last year, I was living in a monastery. This monastery was dedicated to building. Here it is. It's called HF0. It's a hacker fellowship. They bring together 12 of the top AI companies from around the world to live together and to only work, eat, sleep, and work out. And when we arrived from London, me and my co-founders, we arrived outside of the house and took a 4-hour bus ride north of San Francisco with these guys. These guys are from all over the world. And on that journey, on that bus ride on the way out, I started chatting to them about what they were doing, what they were building. And I was amazed. All of them were building the future. One of them was taking cells from animals to grow animal organs, to one day grow human life in a lab. Another one was promising to cure addiction using AI doctors. Us, the 3 guys from London, we were promising to fix email. And that face, which I saw down there, of confusion, I got from everyone. Even the most advanced people in AI, they were like, well, what about ChatGPT? What about Gemini? What about Copilot? What about, who even uses email? What about Notion, Slack, all of these cool tools? And I guess, for us, it seemed obvious, because when you're so in on a problem and you've been working on it for such a long time, it's so obvious to you, but it's not obvious to others. And so this skepticism we felt time and time again. And at the time we entered the monastery, we were at 300K ARR. And since then, we've grown 3,000%, and our business is adding 1 million ARR net new every single week. So how do we do it? We perfected email. But why is email so hard? Let's look at this email from Websummit. Carol emailed me saying, would you like to speak? Who can speak from your team? What will the topic be? And to be honest, this did turn into a 20 email thread. I think we all know the feeling. But the important thing is that were this code, there would be an objective answer. There would be an answer which an AI would find really easy to predict. Whereas there's so much subjectivity here. This is my first event of the year. We've said no to events, followed the monastery principles of keeping our heads down and building. So if it was to look into my history, it might assume that I would say no. Also, am I the right person to speak? Who would I bring from my team? There's just so many questions. And so when you're trying to predict what someone might do, you need to basically teach the AI the sort of strange behaviors that us humans have, the subtleties that basically have happened over evolution, the subtleties of context, of tone. There's even other things like just reading a room. AI is amazing at very objective problems like coding, like math, like protein folding, whereas email is one of the most subjective problems, and it's why it's way, way harder, even though anyone can write an email, to train an AI. And so the secret behind companies that are going from 1 to 100 million in under 2 years is out. The secret is that in our quiet corner of London, we've been developing the models ourselves. Relying on the base models is proving to be where the downfall happens. Because AGI is not suddenly round the corner. And the era of context engineering is upon us. And specialization matters. And that is why, for the AI's top 50 startups from A16Z, we sit in 7th. And our peers, if we look at Cursor, 11 Labs, Anthropic, OpenAI, the value and the magic of the customer experience is in the model. Your UI can be copied overnight. But the hardest problem and the hardest thing to copy is your AI. So if you want to go from 1 to 100 million in less than 2 years, that is the secret. But you'll see so much hype about ARR. And so I'm not going to stop on ARR. You have to have something that's sticky. You have to have something that people genuinely value. And what we've done is that we've basically taken our ego out of it. What we've said is we're not going to invent anything yet. We're going to copy exactly how people work today. And this is what our peers are doing. I speak to the engineers at Fyxer who love Cursor. And the feature they love the most is code prediction. None of their workflow has changed at all, even though Cursor's worth nearly 40 billion. But what they have changed is that they speed up the engineers. It's in every single minute of their day that they're in Cursor, they're working faster. And one day, Cursor will reinvent coding, but not today. Today, it's about getting within the workflow. And you measure whether you're within the workflow based on your retention. 90% of our users stay with us after 3 months. And it's a stat we're extremely proud about. And if you're lucky enough to have Harry Stebbings on your board and as your main investor, he's pretty cheeky, and he ended up posting our NRR numbers online. So why are we so obsessed with prediction? If you think about all of the UIs out there, like Anthropic, ChatGPT, the list goes on, all the UIs look identical. Chat is not necessarily the best way to interact with AI in every single task that you're doing. The thing with short-form content, like email, is that you're battling with the user just doing the work themselves. So if you ask them to go through multiple options, to review lots of things, to chat with it, they might as well have done it themselves. Prediction is different. It's where you've done 60, 70% of the work for the user, and then they're able to add their touch. And this is the future that we're really excited about. Every one of us here, many of you in the audience right now, I can see, are attached to our phones. We are addicted from the moment at which we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. And we have spent the last 10 years teaching every one of you how to work with software. But the edge now is teaching software to work with humans. Because a really exciting future is where you're not attached to your phone for 8 hours a day. You are actually doing the thing that you really value, the thing that you're really creative at. So if that's a software engineer, that's Cursor. If that's a designer, you're in Figma. If you're a real estate agent, you're out with the houses and the people. And that is the future that we're hoping to build by taking people away from their phones and only hoping that they do the thing that they need to do. But it all comes down to trust. And so the question that you will have, that my mum and dad have had, that everyone in my life has had, is why won't Google or Outlook build and put more money than you can? They have more money than you. How could they beat you? And it's the thing that we're seeing, that a bigger model, a smarter person, doesn't necessarily do a better job. Would you rather have an executive assistant who has worked for you for 20 years be your assistant? Or do you want an MIT grad who's expert in maths? And so it's really the harder problem here is not about having a bigger or smarter model, it's about having a model that better understands humans. If you take one thing away from this talk today, it's to remember our website. Please try it for yourself. Start saving an hour a day, and you can message me directly on LinkedIn. I want to hear all of your feedback. I promise you today that it won't completely change your life. However, it might if email is one of your burdens in life. I'll talk finally about one of our customers. One of our customers is a guy called Mike. Mike lives in the Midwest. He's a construction worker, operations manager. He's out on the road all day long. Mike gets home in the evening and he is bombarded by emails. And Mike told my brother, who's our CEO, that he had saved him from a divorce, because it was those 2 hours a day at night, which he wasn't hunched over his computer, that he got back. Thank you very much.